What's up, guys? This is Post-Production Pi with srlounge.com, and I have another Lightroom 4 Preset System Mixology tutorial here for you guys. Now, in this tutorial, we're going to be going over the number 24 HDR Light Vivid Landscape preset. We're going to give you guys some comparisons, talk about which situations we like to use this preset in, as well as show you guys how the mixology was created in the first place for you Lightroom 4 Preset System users. Alright guys, so let's get started. We're going to start by selecting HDR Light and just showing you guys what it does. Now this basically creates kind of a faux HDR look to your images, which all it's really doing is it's tone mapping the image and bringing out all the shadows and kind of pulling down the highlights and making a really high contrast faux HDR look. But really it's just tone mapping. Now let's compare this to the standard vivid landscape, and you'll see that basically between the two we're basically just seeing more detail in the shadows, enhanced color, and so on. Now we have two versions of this HDR image or the HDR preset. One is the strong one, which we'll go through in the next tutorial. This one is the light version. Alright, so let's go through which images we'd apply this to. This is actually a perfect candidate right here. And what I might do is just dial down a little bit of the temperature. I like it to be warm, but not quite that warm. I might just pull it down to like say 4600, somewhere around there. And then just, well, you guys can either choose to brighten it up or not. If you like it a little bit on the darker side, it actually looks pretty nice right here as well. But if I brought it up a half a stop, it would look fine as well, you know. And maybe it doesn't need a half a stop, maybe more like, you know, 0.2 or 0.3, so make a minor adjustment over here. But anyway, that's the first example of an image that would look really nice on. Here is the before version of this image, and here's the after, just in a few clicks. Alright guys, let's go on to another image. So let's go to our film strip and let's select this image right next to it. This is another image that was shot in Palos Verdes in California, and we're going to go and select the HDR Light preset. So let's go and select that, and you'll see that it just does a nice job of bringing a little bit of that tonal range out in the shadows. Now, just for the sake of comparison, I'm going to show you guys kind of the HDR Strong and how much more it brings out. So you'll see it brings out a lot more of the shadows than the HDR Light. But again, we're focusing on HDR Light. So that looks great right there. Again, here's the before, here's the after with just one click on this image. Let's go on to another one. Let's scroll through here. Now, I would always recommend you guys to use these HDR presets on images where basically you have already, you kind of retained all the tonal detail in the image, or at least a lot of it. If the image is blown out to begin with, or if all the shadows are clipped, there's nothing that a preset is going to do to kind of save it. So what I often like to do with a shot like this, for example, is I shoot it a little bit underexposed, so I have the majority of the detail, and none of the shadows are really clipped. They're just dark, and we just need to do a little bit of enhancing and some noise reduction to pull them out. So let's go over, here's the after again. Let's go over and, oh, by the way, I'm hitting backslash to go from before and after, just so you guys know. Let's see what this would do on a portrait image. So this is an environmental portrait. Let's apply the HDR Light preset, and you see that it really brings out the tone. So here's the before, here's the after. We might make a couple modifications to kind of soften up the skin, but I'd do it with brushes if anything. Let's go on. You guys remember this image? This was the image that we did in the advertisement. When this is the, I think this is the exact preset that was used actually for the image. Yep, this was the exact preset. And this is the one that we created in the previous mixology tutorial as well. So you guys, if you've been through the other mixology tutorials, we actually already created this preset, and we have it included here for you in the 1.1 update. Let's go and do one other image. I'm going to show you guys this image right here, because this image actually would work pretty well with the HDR setting as well. Now I'm going to select HDR Light, and you're going to see that it's going to really kind of kill skin tones, because it does so much enhancing that basically it's turning those kind of that orange light where the sunset kind of light is hitting, and really kind of making it too powerful. So what we need to do is go into our right side panel and just dial down the temperature. And once we get to a right temperature, you'll see it'll look actually really quite nice. And then I'm going to close this up, and what I might do is just bring it down a half stop, just to kind of darken up a little bit. And then from here, we're going to go in and just modify a little bit more our temperature just to get the perfect setting. Alright, so here all we've done is modify temperature, brought it down half a click in exposure, and you can see the vast difference between that before and the after. And the HDR Light preset is kind of the one that we'd use for typically the majority of your environmental landscapes, because it has less of a kind of a harsh feel than the HDR Strong does, which is really meant more for landscapes and more kind of strong editorial looks. Let's go on. Let's see if there's anything else that we want to apply it to. Let's see here. I think it actually looked really nice on, look really nice on a lot of these images. But let's apply it to this image. This is the image that we did with that desaturated look previously. Let's show you how different we can make it look with that preset, the HDR Light preset. So there's that. What we're going to do is drop into our panel now, and actually, you know what? Let's show you guys another way to add color. We have in the 1.1 update our color toning. So what I might do is I just might add a color tone to this, or kind of a color scheme, whatnot. And I think what would look good on this image is the yellow-violet color scheme. So let's select that. It's going to add some yellows in the highlights, some violets in the shadows, and it actually looks really nice with this HDR preset. Let's check out the before and the after. So there's the before, here's the after. 2 clicks, guys, and we are there. All right, let's go on. Let's see. We're going to save some of these other ones for the HDR Strong preset. So let's go now and we'll select an image and show you guys exactly how to create the HDR Light preset. And what we'll do is let's select, let's see here. Let's select this image right here. All right, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to close down our film strip. Alright guys, so let's go ahead and start our mixology, of course, off with our standard import preset. Now once again, with mixologies, we'd always recommend using an average image that's properly exposed so you have a good baseline and a uniform setting for that preset. So we're going to drop into our base adjustments. This image is properly exposed. It is a little bit high contrast, and so our HDR is going to look a little bit higher contrast than normal, but that's okay, because we're going to match the HDR preset that we created, which is a universal preset for kind of all images. So let's drop in. We're going to go into our base adjustments and start with our base tones, and we're going to do a heavy HDR boost. We're just going to bring out basically the shadows while dropping the highlights. We're going to next leave our detail where it's at. We're going to actually boost contrast a bit just to enhance the contrast, because kind of doing that tone mapping and boosting the dynamic range kills our contrast. So we're going to do a heavy boost there. We're going to leave blacks where it's at. We'll leave saturation at default. With noise reduction, we do want to do a light amount of noise reduction because we are adding quite a bit of noise to the shadows by lifting it out. Now, vignetting is kind of something that I'll leave up to you guys. We have it turned off in this preset because we want this preset to be very universal. So I like it turned off, and if I want it, I can always add it later. Now, what I want to do now is drop into my neutral curves. We're going to go down to our neutral punches and add an ivory neutral punch to give us our final bit of contrast. And again, it's a little bit heavy for this image, but that's okay because this is not a standard image, which I broke my own rule, but at least it's properly exposed. All right, so we're done with our preset. We're going to go up to the top of the menu, click plus, and we're going to create this new preset under My Mixology Folder. Once again, here are the correct settings. You're going to check all and then uncheck white balance. Auto settings, make sure they're all turned off, and then you're going to deselect lens profile corrections, transform, and chromatic aberration, because once again, those are built into your standard import preset. Hopefully this part is drilled into your head by now. Again, 1.1 users, you guys already have this preset, and we're going to select it right now so you don't need to save it out. It is right here, whoops, in our My Mixology folder under HDR Light. So if we select that, nothing changes because the preset is exactly the same. Now, what we might do from here is just dial in a little bit of a lower exposure, just a titch, just 0.2 down, and then I might just take the temperature down a little bit to kind of mute the, not mute, but just kind of tone down the warmth on it a little bit. And then for this image in particular, I might drop the vibrance, but for most images, you really wouldn't need to. Alright guys, so that's it. We've shown you guys the HDR Mixology. Here is the before and the after on this image. So this HDR Light is a really powerful preset you guys can use to get one click, tone map, and get a great kind of faux HDR look to your images. And I think you guys will enjoy it. So we'll see you guys with the next Mixology tutorial.